All right, guys, here we are, Chapter 3, starting with number 24, writing the equation of a line that passes through these points. First thing I want to do is find my slope, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm taking 13, and I'm subtracting 5, and I'm putting it over negative 10 minus negative 8. Well, 13 minus 5 is 8. And when I have two negatives side by side, they become a positive, so negative 10 and 8 is negative 2. Well, that can be simplified. 8 divided by negative 2 is negative 4. So I now know that my slope equals negative 4. The next thing I'm going to do is point slope, which is y minus y1 equals m, my slope, times x minus x1. All right, I could choose either of these points. It doesn't matter which one I choose. I'm going to just choose the first point because it's right there and it's the first point. So I'm going to rewrite this and do y minus 5, because that's my y value, equals my slope, which we found was negative 4, times x minus my x value, which is 8. Okay, and I'm going to turn those both into a positive, because two negatives make a positive. Now I need to distribute this 4. I will have y minus 5 equals negative 4x, and negative 4 times a positive 8 for x is a negative 32. I want to get y alone, so I will add 5 and add 5. And my final answer will be y equals negative 4x minus 27. Negative 4x minus 27. All right, and it's y equals, right? So now we need the slope of a line perpendicular passing through these 2 points. So we need to think back to perpendicular, and that is the opposite reciprocal of whatever our slope is. So again, the first thing we want to do is find the slope. And I can label this x1, y1, x2, y2, and go ahead and subtract. So negative 3 minus negative 5 over 8 minus 12. Well, two negatives make a positive, so negative 3 and a positive 5 equal a 2, and then 8 minus 12 is negative 4. That reduces, they can both be reduced by 2. So 1/2, negative 1/2. Now guys, remember it's the opposite reciprocal, so the opposite value is going to be positive, and then I'm going to flip it. So my new slope is a positive 2. Now, that's all I needed to do, find the slope. So positive 2 is my answer. The next one is find the slope of a line parallel passing through these 2 points. All right, parallel, same slope. So all I need to do here is find my slope. Again, I'll label it x1, y1, x2, y2, and plug in accordingly. Negative 5 minus 5 over negative 7 minus negative 2. Negative 5 minus 5 is negative 10. Two negatives make a positive, so negative 7 and a positive 2 is a negative 5. I can simplify this. Negative 10 divided by negative 5 is a positive 2. That is my slope for this one. Now we're going to take it a step further. We're going to write an equation for a line that is parallel to this. Okay, the first thing I want to do is put it in slope-intercept. Put in y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to take 2x plus 3y equals 9. And remember, the whole goal is to get y alone. So I'm going to start by moving 2x over. I will have 3y equals negative 2x. I can't combine these because that 9 doesn't have an x. Plus 9 because it was a positive 9. Now I need to get y alone again, so I'm going to divide. And divide, I'll end up with y equals negative 2/3 x plus 3. All right, so remember it's parallel. I'm going to look to my slope, which is always in front of my x, and it stays the same because it's parallel. So m equals negative 2/3, and I'm going to use this point. So now I'm going to use, for my second step, point slope, which means I'm going to take, this is my x, this is my y, I'll do y minus 1 equals my slope, negative 2/3, x minus 3, my x value. So I need to distribute here, and I will have y minus 1 equals negative 2/3 x plus, because a negative times a negative is 2/3 of 3 is 2. And I need to get y alone, so I'm going to add 1 and add 1 and have y equals negative 2/3 x plus 3. 2 plus 1 is 3. And I can just rewrite my answer up here, negative 2/3 x plus 3. So start by putting it in slope intercept so you can find your slope, and then with that slope, put it into point slope. All right, on to question 28. All right, so the question is, if D is perpendicular to E, so let's go ahead and call this line E and this line D, and F is also perpendicular to E, here's F, and what must be true of D and F? Well, what does it look like? They both have 90 degrees and they're both right next to each other. You could say that D is parallel to F. They are parallel because they're both perpendicular to the same line. All right, here it says use the figure below to find all the missing angle measures. L and M are parallel, and A and B are parallel. Right here, we have 126. Well, 3 and 126, they're consecutive interior angles, or same side interior angles, and they add to 180. So 3 has to be 54. 180 minus 126 is 54, which means angle 3 is 54 degrees. All right, 126 and 2, they're corresponding angles, which means they're congruent. So angle 2 is 126. Well, angle 1 and 3 are vertical, so angle 1 must be 54. And angle 2 was 126, which is vertical to angle 4, so angle 4 must be 126. Then I'm going to look over at angle 5. Well, angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding angles, which makes them parallel, so angle 5 would also be 54 degrees. And then 5 and 6, well, angle 2 and angle 6 are corresponding, so they are congruent, which means angle 6 is also 126 degrees. And then I look at angle 7, which corresponds to angle 3, which means angle 7 must also be 54 degrees. And I look at angle 8, corresponds to angle 4, so it's 126. It's also vertical to angle 6, so 2 reasons that tell us it's 126 degrees. And then I look at 9. Well, 9 corresponds to 5, which is 54 degrees. It's also same side interior, so it must add to 180, which means 54 is our measure there. And angle 10. Well, it also corresponds with angle 6, so it must be 126 degrees. And angle 5 and angle 11, well, those are alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, sorry, so it must be 54 degrees. It's also vertical to angle 9, which is 54. So we have two reasons to know it's 54 degrees. And then I look at angle 12. It's vertical to 126, and it also corresponds with angle 8, which is 126. So we now know that angle 12 is 126. There's two reasons that support it. Okay, so let's look down here, and it says use the figure below to solve for x, given A is parallel to B. Well, if I look at this diagram, oops, I kind of skipped a problem, sorry. Going back to number 30, solve for x given that this A and B are parallel. Well, these two angles are same side interior, and hopefully you remember that they add to 180. So I would take 2x minus 42, add it to 3x plus 2, and it would equal 180 degrees. So I'm going to combine my like terms before I isolate anything. And I will end up with 5x minus 40, a negative 42 and a positive 2, equal 180. And then I'll have to add that 40 to get 5x alone. And I'll end up with 5x, I'm running out of room, equals 220, divide by 5, divide by 5, x equals 44. And the relationship is same side interior. Okay, so 31 will probably be the last one that we can squeeze in this video. If you look at these two angles, they are congruent because they're alternate exterior angles. The parallel lines are cut by a transversal. They're outside of the parallel lines on the outside of them and on opposite sides of the transversal. So I'm going to set them equal to each other. 8x plus 2 equals 10x minus 34. So alternate exterior is the reason I'm going to put. And now I'm going to start simplifying. Getting my x's on one side, so minus 8x minus 8x. I'll have 2 equals 2x minus 34. Now I want to get 2x by itself, so plus 34 plus 34. 36 equals 2x. Divide by 2, divide by 2, x equals 18. And we're just going to stop with that problem, and we will resume with question number 32 through 35 in the next video. Stay tuned.